Hello everyone, it's me, Leo Jays from Mythmaster, here to present my own What If episode. So far there have been 2 seasons of Marvel's What If, which show different changes which could have happened in alternate universes. My change is what if Black Swan had been in the Black Order instead of Cull Obsidian. First up, Black Swan's powers that she'd use in combat include energy beams from her eyes, flight, super strength, and some holographic, telepathic, and chaotic magic powers. But I'll be focusing on the former, as I don't think the MCU would choose to use the latter aspects. And she'll still be a brawler like Cull Obsidian was. And I'll also give her force fields, as she can generate those as well in the comics. The Asgardian ship would play out slightly differently because, unlike Cull Obsidian, Black Swan would not try and interfere with Thanos' fight with the Hulk, but this is just a minor alteration. But the next time that Cull Obsidian properly does something is when he and Ebony Maw arrive in New York. I imagine that this would play out the same way in the new Infinity War, but the upcoming fight would be different. So Ebony Maw and a very pale woman with long white hair would be beamed down onto the street, and the Squidward conversation would go about the same. As Banner tries to transform, Black Swan rises into the air, her eyes starting to glow orange, slowly. Banner strains, but Hulk won't listen, and Black Swan unleashes her eye beams, though luckily Doctor Strange conjures up a large magical shield to stop them, while Tony activates his nanotech suit, flies into the air, and, like in the actual movie, blasts Black Swan backwards with the nanotech repulsor cannons that come from his back. Ebony Maw would flick Tony into the air, and Steven would portal Bruce away while Wong defended them from various attacks from the villains. The scene would continue as it does in Infinity War, but when Tony flies at Ebony Maw, instead of Cull Obsidian hitting him with a hammer, Black Swan flies into him and smashes him through several buildings all the way into Central Park. Bruce watches helplessly as Black Swan pummels Tony into the ground, but Iron Man managed to unleash a unibeam into her chest and knock her away from him. They would continue to brawl, with Black Swan trying to kill Bruce, but Tony stopping her from succeeding. She would manage to back Iron Man away and fly straight at Bruce after like a few seconds, or maybe a minute, and Bruce would start to run, but obviously not fast enough. At the last second, Spidey would arrive and pull Bruce out of the way with a well-timed web. Iron Man would come back and would, from wherever Black Swan had knocked him, and he would join Peter in fighting against the villainess, female villain. However, I think that when Spidey attempted to go and help Doctor Strange, who was being captured by Ebony Maw, Black Swan would grab his leg and stop him, swinging him around and throwing him to Tony before going back to attack them, which doesn't really change anything, it just means they're fighting for longer. And Black Swan would use the full extent of her strength, eye beams, flight, durability, and force fields, and would mostly be able to hold off the two heroes. But when Iron Man and Spidey see the Q ship start to leave, Iron Man would slam a nanotech enhanced punch into Black Swan's chest, like he does to Thanos on Titan, and Spidey would hastily whip her up against a tree before Iron Man summons the Iron Spider suit and takes Peter with him, unlike in the movie where he tries to leave Peter behind. Unfortunately, this would leave Bruce Banner alone in Central Park, with a Black Swan who had managed to break out free of the webs. She would hunt down Bruce, who would be hiding against a tree, breathing heavily, and it'd be a bit like a horror movie scene. He'd argue with Hulk, Black Swan would hear and rip up the tree he was hiding behind before hurling it away. Her eyes would begin to glow again as she floated towards Bruce, but Wong would send her flying through by hurling a portal, kind of like what Doctor Strange does to Loki and Thor when he sends them to find Odin. Wong would help Bruce to his feet and start to close the portal, but at the last second, Black Swan would burst through the portal and unleash her beams, burning 2 holes into Wong's chest. This would affect Phase 4 quite a lot, but we won't be going into that now. Comment beneath if you would like a follow-up episode about Phase 4 of this timeline. The shock of Wong's death would be enough for Hulk to emerge, I think, and he would proceed to pummel Black Swan before hurling her into the sky, where she'd recover and just fly off. The rest of Infinity War would go as normal until we reached the Battle of Wakanda, as Bruce, instead of piloting the Hulkbuster suit, would be actually in, or Hulk would be in charge. Basically, Hulk would be there, and so would Black Swan, and of course, Cull Obsidian wouldn't. As Black Panther and Cap ran ahead, they'd come to a skidding halt as Hulk landed in front of them and did something that he hadn't done before, a thunderclap, which would send all of the nearby Outriders flying, and Hulk would start to rampage. Hulk was shown to be able to thunderclap in She-Hulk, and it's an ability he frequently uses in the comics. As for other changes to the Battle of Wakanda, I would add a fight where Black Swan flies into the air straight towards Falcon. He swerves to avoid her beams and then flies at her, his pistols blazing. But obviously, these would not harm the super durable intergalactic warrior and would only make her angry. Sam would realize his mistake and turn and try and fly away, but Black Swan would catch up, grab one of his wings and rip it off, causing Sam Wilson to start to fall uncontrollably to the ground. As he tumbled down, Black Swan flies after him and pushes Sam faster and faster before they crashed. I think that Falcon would explode with Red Wing, dazing Black Swan and letting Falcon slowly, twist to the side of midair and use what's left of his jetpack and wingsuit to slow his descent. He would crash, and Black Swan would land maybe 10 meters away, and start slowly stroll towards him, because villains always do that. Then one of the giant spiked wheels, I can't remember their name, would roll between them, and by the time it passed, Falcon would have managed to get up and run, but a new challenger would be approaching. It would be time for Hulk vs. Black Swan round 2, but this time the Ivory Warrior would be assisted by a large pack of Outriders. The swarming creatures would dogpile Hulk, and for every 3 that she smacked away, 4 more would take their place. After managing to clear the bulk from him, Hulk would be carried into the air by Black Swan, who would have both hands around his beefy green neck. She would scrape him across a force field as she flew along, kind of basically a mirror of what happens to Cull Obsidian when Bruce manages to attack a Hulk buster hand to it. But Hulk would survive, though Black Swan would hurl him down at the ground. He would crash down, and she would near the wreckage of a Wakandan ship, and she would dive down towards him. But he'd grab a piece of the jagged metal from the vehicle and slam it into her. Battered and bruised, she would get to her feet and fly at him once more, but this time he'd have grabbed another bit of metal and would be using these 2 chunks of metal as makeshift shields and weapons, blocking her beams and battering her at every opportunity. Eventually, he would catch her with a lucky strike and smash her into a jutting piece of vibranium, impaling her. The rest of Infinity War and most of Endgame would go the same, but a sorcerer other than Wong, obviously, just somebody we'd seen in Doctor Strange, for example, would become Sorcerer Supreme, and the battle for Earth would be different. Black Swan would be fighting in the air, fairly obviously, and I'm pretty sure, or I'd like to see her have a fight against Pep and Tony, and since I'm the one writing this, then yeah, we get to see her fight Pep and Tony, using her force fields to block their attacks and shooting I-beams at them. This would be amid all of the panning between fight scenes. But then, specifically, later we would have a scene of her pile driving Tony into the ground, and her I-beams, her eyes starting to glow to get ready to scorch him. But Spidey would swing in and pull her away, yanking her straight into the path of Valkyrie, who'd be flying forwards and would impale Black Swan with her spear. So both times she died, it would be via impaling. Overall, the biggest changes are that Hulk was in Infinity War, so though I think Smart Hulk would still come during the blip, he'd probably just be a bit more beefy in the Endgame, and that obviously Wong died. I thought that she might kill, or I thought of making her kill Pepper or Falcon in Endgame, but I decided against it because she had already killed Wong, and none of the Black Order members actually kill major characters. I'd love your feedback, so please post any that you have in the comments below, as well as what if scenarios you'd like to see Marvel do.